What happens when a millionaire CEO trades his suit for a mop bucket just to find out what's really going on inside one of his busiest mall locations? Landon Wells stood by the glass window of his office on the top floor of the downtown tower, eyes locked on the city below but his mind somewhere else. His company owned 13 mall-based fast casual restaurants scattered across the state. The one inside the Crossridge Mall brought in the most revenue on paper. But something wasn't adding up. Complaints were stacking up. Late food. Long lines. A few customer reviews even mentioned feeling unsafe near the entrance of the store. Security doesn't care, one had written. That line stuck with him. He had bought the company 10 years ago when it was failing. He turned it around with better food, faster service, and a culture of respect. But lately, something was slipping. And he was tired of hearing second-hand excuses. So he made a plan. Landon shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and wore thick, scratched-up glasses. He picked up a uniform from one of the supply depots and signed himself up as a new part-time janitorial trainee. The mall had a third-party cleaning service, and with some strings pulled quietly, he was added to their rotation that week assigned specifically to the Crossridge location. None of the staff at the restaurant knew him. It made sense they'd never met him. Most had been hired by the store manager, and Landon had never visited this location in person. It was easy to stay invisible when you were the man behind the curtain. Monday morning, Landon stepped into the mall through the loading dock entrance, pushing a mop bucket with a worn-down wringer. The smell of fryer oil floated from the restaurant ahead. It was just after 10. The store was opening. He walked past the restaurant slowly, eyes scanning. A young woman behind the counter was wiping the sneeze guard with real focus, while a tall guy with a paper hat was already prepping the sandwich grill. No one noticed Landon. That's how he wanted it. The day started slow. He mopped outside the restrooms first, then around the food court edges. It was around noon when the energy kicked up. The mall buzzed with teenagers, parents, workers on their lunch breaks. The restaurant had a line 10 deep. Landon took his time near the entrance, mopping slowly, listening. Next. Welcome in. The young woman behind the counter said cheerfully. Her name tag read Elena F. The customer, a mother with a toddler on her hip, smiled. Just a kid's meal and a chicken wrap. Elena nodded. You got it. Anything to drink. As the mother reached for her card, trouble stirred nearby. A loud crash echoed from the hallway. A man in a wheelchair had tipped over near one of the benches. A few people gasped. One woman tried to help, but struggled to lift him. Landon stepped forward without thinking. He dropped the mop and jogged over. Sir, you okay? He asked, kneeling down. I lost balance, the man muttered, trying to push himself upright. Landon gently helped him up, adjusting the footrest and handing him a dropped wallet. You hurt? No, just embarrassed. Thank you. Mall security was nowhere in sight. Landon stood, scanning. The security booth was 20 feet away, tucked near the escalator. Inside, a man in a navy blue uniform sat in a chair, watching something on his phone. He didn't look up once. Landon walked over, his heart pounding. Hey, that man just fell. Right out there, he said, pointing. The guard didn't look up. People fall here all the time. You didn't see it? Not my job to chase every trip and stumble. We're not EMTs. Landon stared at him. The guard finally looked up, annoyed. You work janitorial, yeah? Stick to floors. Landon clenched his jaw but said nothing. He turned and walked away. Back near the restaurant, Elena was now helping an older woman carry a tray to her table. The rest of the staff looked slammed, but they kept moving. No yelling. No chaos. Just steady work. But something still felt off. He spent the rest of the day cleaning near the trash bins and watching. A teenage boy named Carter took over the grill mid-afternoon. No complaints. A few customers even joked with him. The manager showed up around 4. She was tall, sharp-dressed, and immediately loud. Her name tag said Tina. She didn't greet the staff, just walked straight to the back and started barking orders. Where's the register report from lunch? Why's the saucepan half empty? Elena, how many times do I have to tell you clean first, talk later? Landon watched her tone closely. She wasn't just firm. She was mean. Elena flinched but nodded. Yes, ma'am. Later, in the break area, Landon caught a brief moment between Elena and Carter. They were eating quickly, both looking tired. She yelled at me for helping that old lady, Elena said, voice low. Said it slows down service. Carter snorted. She's never on the floor. She just shows up to nitpick. Yeah, Elena said. But I need this job. Landon walked away, heart heavy. He had seen enough for one day. That night, he didn't sleep well. The security guard ignoring the man in the wheelchair had stuck with him. That could have been someone's grandfather. The manager's attitude, the way she dismissed kindness as a flaw, it felt like his values had been gutted from the inside. And the good workers? They were running the place with heart while being brushed off or snapped at. He needed more time. He wasn't going to blow his cover yet. Tomorrow, he'd get even closer to the operation. And the security guard? Landon had a plan for him too. Tuesday started colder and Landon arrived earlier. He didn't want to miss anything. The food court was still quiet when he pushed his mop bucket in from the service hallway, but the lights above the restaurant were already on. Inside, Carter was stocking napkin bins, moving with careful efficiency, while Elena arrived moments later with a thermos tucked under her arm and earbuds dangling from her hoodie. Neither noticed Landon as he swept near the side entrance, staying close enough to hear but far enough to avoid suspicion. It was clear already these two opened the store more smoothly than some full-day teams he'd seen in other branches. By mid-morning, the foot traffic picked up. A group of nursing students took over a nearby table, laughing over textbooks. A retired couple ordered matching turkey melts and sat by the railing. Everyone seemed to be in a rhythm except Tina, who didn't appear until nearly noon. Before she showed, a teen named Jordan arrived for his shift. Landon hadn't seen him the day before. Jordan was tall, lean, and a little jittery. He didn't greet anyone, just nodded and tucked himself behind the prep counter like he was trying to disappear. A few minutes later, Carter handed him gloves and gave him a quick nod, no words exchanged. Landon swept near the soda machines and kept his head down, observing the shift change. The pace picked up fast with the lunch rush. Landon noticed that Jordan hesitated every time a customer asked for something customized. He'd pause for too long or ask Carter to double-check the order. At first, it seemed like nerves, but then he fumbled a tray and nearly spilled 2 drinks on a customer. Sorry, Jordan mumbled, eyes lowered. The customer waved it off. Elena leaned over the counter. Hey, you okay? Jordan didn't respond, just turned and busied himself with restocking lids. Tina walked in shortly after, heels clicking sharply on the tile, wearing a blazer over her uniform shirt. She didn't greet anyone. Where's the inventory binder? She asked, not looking up. In the back, on the shelf, Carter said. I asked you to leave it on the counter. I thought, don't think. Just follow instructions. Landon kept his eyes on the floor, pretending to mop near the edge of the counter. Tina grabbed the binder and started flipping pages, muttering numbers under her breath. Jordan, she snapped suddenly. Why is the cold line a mess already? Jordan froze. I just got here. Then why are you back here if you can't handle basic prep? Tina said, loud enough that a customer turned to look. I didn't mean, go grab some napkins from storage. You're clearly not helping here. Jordan shuffled away, face pale. Landon's grip tightened on the mop handle. Later, in the break corridor behind the store, Landon caught up to Jordan just as he was coming back with a box of napkins. He looked shaken. You all right? Landon asked, keeping his voice casual. Jordan blinked. Yeah, just don't want to mess up again. Does she always come at you like that? Jordan hesitated, then nodded. Only when there's people around. Otherwise, she ignores me. Something about that answer didn't sit right. Landon let it go for now. By 3 o'clock, the rush had died down. Carter was wiping down counters while Elena stocked the sauce bar. Tina was in the back again, sitting at a corner table with a laptop open. Landon had seen her back there for nearly 2 hours. He made his way to the trash bins near the restaurant and overheard two mall employees talking at a nearby table. "Security really let the guy just crawl back into his chair yesterday?" one of them said. "Yeah. That new janitor helped him. What's his name again?" "No idea, he's quiet." "But yeah, security didn't move an inch." "Figures. That guy's always on his phone. Says he's monitoring but just watches videos." Landon didn't interrupt. He didn't need confirmation. He already knew. At the end of the shift, Elena walked past him, glancing down at the floor he was mopping. "You're new, right?" she asked. "Yeah. Just started yesterday." She smiled tiredly. "You mop like someone who's done a lot more than that." Landon shrugged. "Maybe. Well, thanks for helping yesterday. That guy who fell. You didn't have to." He nodded once, then went back to mopping. That evening, Landon called the regional director from a payphone near the bus stop. He told her to quietly pull the CCTV footage from the food court yesterday and today, especially the hallway near the security booth. No questions asked. She agreed, though confused. He didn't explain. Not yet. Wednesday brought new tension. Jordan didn't show up for his shift. No call. No explanation. By 11, Tina was pacing the back hallway, phone in hand. "I swear, if he thinks he can pull this again, he's done," she muttered. Elena looked concerned. "Did something happen?" "None of your business. Keep the line clean." Landon had a sinking feeling. He slipped back to the storage hallway and sent a quick message to the HR line posing as a concerned coworker. He requested a wellness check on Jordan, anonymously. By 1, the mall was packed again. A long line formed in front of the restaurant, but they were short-staffed. Carter pulled double duty at the grill and register. Elena handled orders and bagging. Tina stood behind the counter for all of 5 minutes before walking off again. At one point, a woman in a bright red jacket approached the counter. "I waited 20 minutes and you gave me the wrong wrap," she said firmly. Elena apologized and offered to remake it. The woman nodded, but Tina overheard and stormed over. "What's the issue?" "She just remade my order." "Did you order it wrong?" "No," the woman said, frowning. "She just gave me the wrong one." Tina folded her arms. "Then maybe next time be clearer when you order." The woman's eyes widened. "Excuse me. I'm just saying if you're going to complain, be specific." Landon stepped forward from the side, heart pounding. "That's not how you talk to someone," he said, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Tina turned. "You clean floors. Stay in your lane." "Not today." Landon walked around the side of the counter, past the trash bins, and into the store. Elena's eyes widened. Carter froze. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out his ID, the real one. "I'm Landon Wells," he said, "owner of this company." The silence was immediate. Tina's mouth opened, then snapped shut. Before she could speak, Landon turned to the customer. "I apologize. Your food will be corrected and it's on the house. We'll also be reviewing how complaints are handled going forward." The woman nodded slowly and stepped back. Landon turned to Tina. "Back room. Now." She hesitated, then walked toward the back. He followed. Inside, he closed the door. "You've got 5 minutes to explain yourself. I didn't know who you were. I'm not interested in excuses. I've watched you ignore your team, belittle employees in front of customers, and disappear during peak hours. That's not leadership. I've been managing this store for 2 years and it runs better without you on the floor." She flushed, eyes narrowing. "If this is about Jordan, it is. I don't know what happened yet, but whatever you said or did, it pushed a young employee to vanish without a word. That matters to me. And it should have mattered to you." She crossed her arms. "Then what do you want?" "You're relieved of your position. Effective immediately." Her jaw dropped. "You're firing me?" "Yes. For consistent poor conduct, verbal mistreatment of staff, and failure to lead by example." She stormed out without another word. Landon stepped back into the main area. Carter and Elena were still frozen behind the counter. He looked at them. "I'll need your help to keep the store running until we get a new manager. Think you can handle that?" They both nodded. "And tomorrow," he added, "we're going to talk about what changes you think this place really needs." He turned toward the security booth. The guard was still inside, leaning back in his chair, watching something on his phone. Landon exhaled slowly. That would be next. But not before he called Jordan and made sure that kid was okay. By Thursday morning, the weight of everything Landon had uncovered pressed on him like a vice. After dismissing Tina the previous afternoon, he'd stayed late at the store, walking through the stockroom with Carter and checking the closing procedures with Elena. They were clearly exhausted but held themselves with quiet resilience. Neither of them asked why the CEO was still dressed like a janitor. They didn't need to. They understood enough. That night, Landon had managed to get a hold of Jordan's mother. The young man had turned off his phone and hadn't come home after his shift 2 days ago. Thankfully, he'd returned that evening. According to her, Jordan had experienced a full-blown panic attack in the stock hallway after being berated by Tina. When he couldn't stop shaking, he left the building and walked for hours. His mother had found him asleep on a park bench near their apartment complex. Landon didn't press for more. He apologized to her because no parent should have to watch their child fall apart over a fast food job. He promised that if Jordan chose to return, the environment would be different. Now, standing outside the restaurant in the same faded gray polo and scuffed shoes, Landon took a long breath before pushing the mop bucket forward. His disguise still held. Most of the mall staff assumed he was a quiet cleaner who kept to himself. That suited him fine. He needed one more day to evaluate everything before stepping out for good. Inside the store, Carter was already on the sandwich line, wearing disposable gloves and adjusting the prep trays. Elena was at the register counting the float. They moved in quiet sync, checking timers and warming drawers without needing to speak. Landon approached quietly with a fresh trash bag, replacing the bin under the soda fountain. Elena looked up at him. "You're back," she said. "I wasn't sure if you were going to stay now that everything happened." "I finish what I start," Landon replied simply. She nodded and turned back to her screen. A new assistant manager arrived at 9, a temporary transfer from another location. Her name was Priya. She walked in with a clipboard and a calm presence, her hair tied back and sleeves rolled up. She didn't introduce herself with flair. She just got to work. "Carter, how's your temp log this morning?" she asked. Fridge was at 39. "That's within range." "Good. Let's keep it under 40, yeah?" "Elena, we're going to test a 2-person close tonight. I'll take final counts if you two can handle the floor." "Done," Elena nodded. Landon tucked himself near the janitor's closet, pretending to restock supplies while listening. Priya didn't raise her voice, didn't hover. She simply asked, listened, and wrote things down. At 10:30, Landon made his way toward the security booth. The guard was there same as before, leaning back, phone in hand, a half-eaten pastry on the desk beside him. Landon knocked on the doorframe. "Morning," he said. The guard barely looked up. "Yeah." He wore no name tag, and his shirt was wrinkled. His badge sat clipped to the edge of a cracked tablet. Landon kept his tone even. "You remember me?" The guard squinted. "You're the floor guy, right? Let's talk for a second." The guard sighed and stood. "Look, if this is about that guy who fell, I told you." "You told me you weren't an EMT," Landon interrupted. "But that's not what I'm asking about." The guard folded his arms. "Then what? Why are you watching videos during your shift?" The man's jaw tightened. "I multitask. I keep an eye on the cameras." "Do you log incidents?" "I don't need to log every little thing." "Is that your policy? Or mall policy?" The guard hesitated. "I've been here for years. I know what matters." Landon pulled out a folded sheet of paper from his back pocket. "This is a copy of the contract between your security company and Crossridge Mall. I had it overnight this morning. It requires all employees to log incidents involving customers, including injuries and disruptions. You haven't logged anything in over 2 weeks." The guard's eyes flicked over the paper. "Who are you?" he asked, voice lower now. "I'm the owner of the restaurant you've been ignoring." The man's jaw moved slightly, but he didn't speak. Landon continued. I saw you sit there while an elderly man fell. I've heard at least 3 mall staff say you don't respond unless someone yells. You're paid to provide a presence, not just to exist in a chair. I'm not a babysitter. You're not anything now, Landon said. You're being reported to your supervisor. I've already faxed them the footage from this week. You're relieved of duty effective immediately. Mall management's been notified. The guard started to protest, but Landon held up a hand. We're done. By noon, a new security officer, a younger man in a crisp uniform, had taken over the booth. He walked the floor twice in the first hour. A subtle but powerful shift. Inside the restaurant, the pace quickened. A group of high school students ordered sandwiches in a flurry, joking loudly. Carter handled the rush with practiced movements, flipping patties and wrapping orders one after the other. Elena coordinated the register and bagging with speed. Priya worked quietly in the back, prepping extra sauces and checking off inventory counts. She didn't hover or micromanage. At 2, Landon pulled Elena aside near the storage hallway. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. Why do you stay here? She tilted her head. You mean this job? Yeah. You're smart. You work hard. Why stay in a place like this? Elena leaned against the wall. Honestly, I dropped out of college after my dad passed. I had to help my mom with bills. I needed something steady, and this job didn't care that I didn't finish school. Landon nodded once. He didn't push further. Then she asked, Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why'd you come undercover? Why not just send someone else to check the place out? Because I stopped trusting the filters. People only tell you what they think you want to hear. I wanted to see what it's really like. She offered a small, tired smile. You found it. That evening, just after 5, Carter clocked out. His eyes were sunken, shoulders slumped. As he passed by Landon, he paused. I've got a second job, he said. Night shifts at a gas station. That's why I'm always dragging by the end of the day. Landon blinked. How many hours do you work in a week? About 55. I try to keep it under 60. Landon didn't respond right away. Carter nodded and left. Landon turned toward Priya, who was wiping down a prep surface. I want you to post an opening for a second full-time staffer here, he said. Carter needs backup, and Elena's probably been doing the job of 2 people for months. Priya looked up. I figured you'd say that. I already drafted the request. Landon let out a breath. Good. He stepped into the dining area, watching as the last of the dinner rush thinned out. The tables were clean. The staff was focused. And for the first time all week, the energy didn't feel tense or fractured. He pulled his phone, stepped outside the restaurant, and called Jordan. There was a pause before the young man answered. Hey, Landon said. This is Mr. Wells. I just wanted to say whatever you decide, there's a spot for you here. If you come back, things will be different. And if you don't, I respect that too. Jordan didn't speak at first. Then he said, I might need a few days. Take them. Landon hung up and stood near the railing of the food court, watching the crowd below. People moved in waves, mothers with strollers, teens with earbuds, workers in uniforms. The mall wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And now it was finally changing. Friday came with a quiet heaviness. Landon arrived before sunrise, not in a janitor's uniform this time, but dressed plainly in a dark crewneck and jeans, neutral but enough to shed the disguise. The cleaning company had reassigned his shift, and he had sent a message to Priya the night before letting her know he'd be stepping in differently today. No more mop bucket. He was here as himself. The food court was still asleep when he entered through the rear corridor. Only a few early vendors were pulling up their gates. He passed the now occupied security booth, new guard, alert, standing, and nodded once. The man returned the gesture without hesitation. That wasn't something Landon had seen all week. Inside the restaurant, the lights were on, but the doors were still locked. Elena stood at the prep counter, tying her apron. She glanced up and paused when she saw him. Morning, she said. Is this COU now? Just Landon's fine, he replied. I'm shadowing Priya today. Thought I'd see how the new rhythm's going. She nodded and went back to setting out trays. "We're adjusting." Carter arrived 20 minutes later, looking like he'd barely slept. His shirt was clean, but his eyes were puffy, and he moved like his limbs weighed more than they should. He gave Landon a slight nod, but didn't speak. Priya walked in not long after, holding a clipboard and a folded schedule in her other hand. She looked over the store quickly, then made a sharp pivot toward Carter. "Come with me for a second," she said. He followed her to the back hallway without a word. Landon waited near the counter, keeping his distance. When they returned, Carter's expression had changed, not lighter, but more focused. "We've adjusted his hours," Priya said quietly as she passed by Landon. "He'll work 4 full days instead of 6 fractured ones. That buys him time to sleep between shifts." Landon nodded. He agreed to it. He didn't fight me on it. By 10 o'clock, the floor started filling. A few regulars came in: students, retail workers, a man in a delivery uniform. Orders moved steadily. The line ebbed and flowed. It wasn't chaotic, but it wasn't slow either. Landon took a seat off to the side, just far enough to stay out of the way but close enough to keep a pulse on the room. He watched how Priya handled bottlenecks, redirecting without pressure, stepping in when needed, staying present without hovering. She didn't ask for credit. She didn't give long speeches. She just worked. Around noon, the atmosphere shifted. A woman in a charcoal gray suit stepped into the restaurant, carrying a leather binder and a thin laptop bag. She glanced around, then approached the counter. "I'm here to speak with the owner," she said, her tone clipped. Elena turned toward Landon without hesitation. "That's him." The woman extended her hand. "Mall Operations Director. I was asked to meet you regarding the security changes." Landon stood. "Thanks for coming." They stepped aside near the seating area. The woman opened the binder. "We've reviewed the footage. Your report checks out. That guard failed to adhere to protocol in multiple instances. His supervisor has been put on review as well, should have caught the gaps in reporting." "I appreciate it," Landon said. "This isn't a one-person failure. It's a culture issue. If the booth becomes a screen instead of a presence, people stop feeling safe." She gave a brief nod. "We'll be increasing walk-through frequency, random audits, and we're reviewing all current personnel." "Good." That guard sat through an elderly man falling. "I don't want to see that happen again. Not here or anywhere else on this property." "You won't." They shook hands. She left without small talk. Back inside, Landon found Priya reviewing the mid-shift log near the registers. "We're still short bodies," she said, not looking up. "I've got 2 applications in, but no one who can start immediately." "I'll authorize overtime for now," Landon said. "But I want you to flag if anyone starts showing fatigue." She raised an eyebrow. "You planning to walk the floor of every location now?" "No," he said, "but I'm done trusting spreadsheets over people." Just after 2, something unexpected happened. Jordan walked in. He wasn't in uniform, but he looked steadier. He made direct eye contact with Elena, then Carter, then finally with Landon. "I'm not sure if I'm ready to be back full-time," he said. "You don't need to decide that today," Landon replied. "Just come talk." They stepped into the back room. It smelled faintly of fresh bread. "I should have said something earlier," Jordan said, voice low. "I just didn't know how to handle it. When she snapped at me in front of that woman, I froze." "You don't owe anyone an apology for being overwhelmed," Landon said. "But I need you to know something. If you ever feel like that again, cornered, unsafe, humiliated, you tell someone. Me, Priya, HR, anyone. You don't disappear." Jordan nodded once. "We can start you back on 3 shifts a week. Short ones. No closing. You'll stay on the front line until you feel solid." "I'd like that," he said. By 4, the line surged again. Mall traffic was peaking. Landon didn't step behind the line. He stayed out of the team's way, but he watched how they handled it. Elena called out orders clearly. Carter moved with quiet intensity. Priya floated where needed, correcting course with a word or a gesture before anything could stall. At 5:30, Landon gathered them all before the dinner wave. "I'm stepping away from this location next week," he said. "But before I do, I want to make something clear." They looked up, attentive. This restaurant runs well because of you. Not because of spreadsheets or protocols or top-down policies. Because of how you show up. That's not going unnoticed anymore. He turned to Carter. You're approved for reduced hours and full benefits. You'll be our first lead trainer starting next month. I want new hires to learn from someone who understands this floor better than anyone. Carter's brows lifted. Seriously? You've earned it. He turned to Elena. You're being promoted to shift supervisor. Effective Monday. Your pay adjusts immediately. Her mouth opened slightly. I didn't ask, you didn't need to. You showed it. Every shift. Jordan stood off to the side, unsure. And you, Landon said. You have a place here if you want it. But I'll understand if you don't. Jordan nodded slowly. I think I'll stay. Priya stepped up beside him. We'll keep building from here. Landon looked around one last time. The store was still loud. Still busy. But it was different now. The weight that had hung in the air all week, the fear, the silence, the tension was gone. He stepped out of the store and into the food court. The security guard on duty was walking a loop near the seating area, nodding at customers as he passed. The elderly man who had fallen days earlier was sitting at a table with a cup of tea, chatting with someone from a nearby shop. Landon kept walking, past the railing, past the vending machines, toward the service hallway he'd entered through all week. He didn't look back. He didn't need to.